Hey, welcome to One Awesome Autistic. Today I wanted to talk about fatigue because a lot of people don't seem to think fatigue is real and think that people with fatigue are just being lazy. But it's a lot more complicated than that, so that's what I wanted to talk about today. Fatigue is so much more than just feeling tired, and for those people that have never experienced it, it can be really hard for them to understand it. The NHS website describes the difference between tiredness and fatigue being that tiredness you can recover from with sleep or rest, whereas typically with fatigue, simply sleeping and resting isn't enough to get over it, and it's a very overwhelming feeling. And feeling tired or feeling sleepy is just one aspect of fatigue. The reason why it is different from just the feeling of being tired is because there's a lot more symptoms to do with it. And if you're suffering from fatigue, you can also get headaches, dizziness, muscle pain, joint pain, soreness, slow responses and reflexes, impaired decision making or judgment, and also moodiness and irritability. Now, there are actually a lot of causes of fatigue, which makes it really hard sometimes to actually get rid of it. Until you know what the actual cause is, it might be difficult to alleviate the symptoms that you're suffering from. I myself suffer with fatigue quite badly, but that's because I'm not only autistic, I also have ADHD that is currently undiagnosed that I'm then unmedicated for. I also recently discovered that I have a chronic illness which causes fatigue, and at the moment I am severely deficient in vitamin D, which also causes fatigue. So I've got 4 things going on with me causing fatigue, so I have like a quadruple whammy. I get tired very, very easily, I'm very achy, my knees in particular will stiffen up and get very painful, I do get moody and irritable, I do have slow responses to things on some days, and a whole bunch of other things, and the main issue is because of the fatigue. Now, I'm currently on vitamin D tablets, quite strong ones because I'm so deficient, and a few days in, I've already started to notice a difference. I have more energy today and feel less achy and less tired today than I have done for as long as I can remember. Now, recognising that I have a chronic illness, I just am waiting on some other things, but then I can get a diagnosis, I can get treatment. That should also alleviate my fatigue as well. The future is looking brighter for me because I went to the doctors to get other symptoms sorted out, and these things were discovered. Being autistic causes fatigue because of sensory overloads, burnouts, and those kinds of things. And also, like me, a lot of autistic people have at least one comorbidity, which can also cause fatigue as well. So things like ADHD, quite a variation of chronic illnesses cause fatigue. The best starting point to try and combat the fatigue is getting the right diagnosis and then getting the right treatment for you. If you have other worrying symptoms, always go talk to your doctor, because something could be going on with your body that you just don't know about, like what's happened with me having a chronic illness, but then that can be detected, you can have treatment, and then your fatigue might start to disappear. If you don't get the right diagnosis, which can often happen with overlapping symptoms with different types of conditions, then you're not going to get the right treatment, then it's not going to help. And in fact, the wrong treatment can make you even worse. If you don't agree with a diagnosis you're being given, or a department is very hesitant to give you any kind of diagnosis, you can always ask for a second opinion. You don't have to stick with what you are being told, you can always challenge it. Sleeping issues such as not getting enough sleep or not getting decent quality sleep can be a cause of fatigue. So if you don't have any other kind of illnesses going on, then there are symptoms and side effects of just being autistic that can cause fatigue as well. So if you're not sleeping properly, then that can really cause quite bad fatigue. But it can be remedied without having to go to the doctors. So there are options out there. Getting yourself just in a good nighttime routine of getting in bed, doing something that calms you before getting in bed, having the lights off, not having any blue screens in front of you, so laptops, iPads and phones, that kind of thing, so that your brain can quieten down, can be something small but actually help quite a lot. But there is medications you can take, such as that you can buy from pharmacies, such as calms tablets, which help to relax you so that you're able to get to sleep. And there are also different variations of gummies that you can just suck on, and they release things into your system which helps calm you down at night and helps you to sleep, such as melatonin. Having anxiety can also be another cause of fatigue, and a lot of people who are autistic suffer with various forms of anxiety. Minimising your anxiety, whether that be with medication or some kind of therapy, can also be helpful to alleviate your symptoms of fatigue. As much as it can be really hard for autistic people to do a lot of these things, but eating healthily can also help, as well as eating regularly and keeping hydrated, and so can exercise. Now, I'm not saying you need to be going to the gym 5 times a week to get rid of symptoms of fatigue, but just a little bit of light exercise, a couple of times a week, 3 times a week, or something like yoga, something like that, can really help alleviate symptoms of fatigue. If you're anything like me, it's a lot easier to stay inside than it is to go out in the world that is not necessarily made for us. It's overstimulating, it's stressful, it causes anxiety, it induces panic attacks. Wherever possible, I stay inside, which is typically 6.5 days a week at least. The problem with that is that this is what's ended up causing my vitamin D deficiency, because you typically get the majority of vitamin D from the sun. But we also live in England, and there's not that much sun. I don't recommend taking supplements on a whim because you think you might be deficient in something. It's always worth getting checked out by your doctor, getting a blood test if needs be. But if you're not going out a lot, your vitamin D is likely to be low. You don't have to take supplements to make your vitamin D levels go up. If you don't want to go through all the rigmarole of having to go to your doctors, have a blood test, then there are ways of keeping your vitamin D levels up without having to go through all that. There are obviously light supplements that you can take that will just add a little bit of vitamin D into your system that you can just get from a lot of different stores. But there are some foods that are more rich in vitamin D, such as fatty fishes, eggs, particularly the yolks of eggs, and mushrooms. But in this wonderful modern world that we live in, we now get food and drinks which are called fortified foods and drinks, and that is that they've had things like vitamin D put into them, and typically those are cereals, orange juice, cow's milk and soy milk. So in your local store, look for anything that says it's fortified in vitamin D, and that will help get more into your system. I hope some of this information has been helpful, but like I say, if you are suffering from any of the worrying symptoms or your fatigue is quite extreme, then I highly recommend speaking to a doctor about it, because there may be something going on that is very easily diagnosable, and then you can start on the right treatment path. But that's it from me today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye for now.